following program is furnished by The Truth About Your Future, LLC. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station. This information is education and not financial advice. Consult a financial advisor before investing.
The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman is brought to you by Bitwise, the world's largest crypto index fund manager, and by Global X ETFs. For more than a decade, Global X ETFs has been dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions, and by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100, and by Edelman Financial Engines. Rick Edelman is a board member, consultant, shareholder, and client of EFE, but EFE is unaffiliated and has no say over the content of The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
This is where technology, innovation, and personal finance come together.
This is The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman.
And now your host, Rick Edelman.
Thanks for being with me here on the program today. We're going to talk about Topps trading cards, NFTs, Bitcoin, CBDCs, a Visa card that pays you in Bitcoin. And Dr. Dean Ornish joins us to talk about how you can improve the symptoms of Alzheimer's just by changing your diet. Plus the latest and greatest in XT and Gene's Word of the Week. Let's get started with turmoil. You're tired of the change. Can't everything just stop and settle down? No. I wish it could, but it's not going to. We have a dynamic environment between COVID, the economy, tax law, an election coming up, investment strategies in flux. I wish I could tell you that life is as it was, but we've got no choice but to deal with this. And just to illustrate how things are constantly changing and developing and evolving, we've got another example of it in the technology world, another example of tech disrupting old companies. Remember Topps trading cards? As kids, we used to collect baseball cards. We'd break them open and grab the bubble gum that was in those cards. Topps has been around for 70, 80, 100 years. Well, Topps was bought by Fanatics, another trading card company. But what's the big deal about Fanatics? They create digital trading cards. Topps failed to do this, so they got sold for $500 million. I don't think any of the shareholders of Topps are complaining, but Topps is no more. Fanatics is now taking over because Fanatics offers digital trading cards. They're called NFTs. You've heard of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. What the heck is a non-fungible token? Well, I'll get to that in a second, but my major point here is to help you understand that if you are still insisting on investing in 20th century companies, you're going to be left behind because the 20th century ended over 20 years ago. It's now the 21st century, and we need to invest in the companies that are developing and exploiting the 21st century technology. We need to get with the program. So let's talk a little bit about NFTs because this is a wonderful illustration of what I'm talking about. You've probably heard of NFTs and you've seen folks talking about them, but what exactly is an NFT? Let me briefly explain it for you. An NFT is a non-fungible token. I don't think that explained anything to you, did it? Well, what's a non-fungible token? Well, in order to understand what a non-fungible token is, you got to first understand what a fungible token is. Well, what's fungible? Fungible means exchangeable. Your dollar bills are fungible. In other words, if I lend you $1 and you pay me back next week, the dollar you give me back doesn't have to be the same dollar bill that I gave you because every dollar bill is identical. Oh, yeah, the serial numbers are different, but the value of them is the same and we treat them as the same. So dollars are fungible. Now think about a Picasso. Every painting that Picasso created is unique. They're no two alike. So a Picasso is non-fungible, meaning it's unique. So you know what it's like to buy a Picasso and hang it on your wall. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, to own a Picasso? Well, is it though really all that big a deal? I mean, think about it. How often are you standing in front of that wall? How often will you actually see the artwork? Not terribly often, right? So imagine if your Picasso that you bought wasn't on your wall, it was instead on your phone. If the art was a digital image that was on your phone and you had it with you 24/7, it could be your screensaver, there for you to view whenever you want. In fact, you could share it with other people because it would be digital art. Just like all of the photos you have on your phone, you can look at them at any time you want. You can share them with other people. You can post them onto the internet. That's what NFTs are. They are digital images of real world items. So you can create a piece of art and then turn it into a digital art, or you can create the digital art in the first place where it only exists on the internet. There's a lot of excitement about NFTs because of the ability for people to buy, own, and sell their digital images. In fact, it's becoming easier and easier to enjoy them. Samsung has just launched a new set of TVs that will let you view your artwork on your television. You'll also be able to browse and buy other NFTs while just sitting there on your sofa in your living room. In fact, it's not just art that people are using or displaying with NFTs. In South Korea, a candidate for president is offering NFTs. He's selling them to raise money for his campaign. Oh, by the way, guess what the NFT is an image of? A watercolor painting of Donald Trump's eyes. Oh, it's not just South Korean politicians who are doing this. It's starting to happen here in the United States as well. Blake Masters is a Republican running for the U.S. Senate in Arizona. He wrote a New York Times bestseller with billionaire Peter Thiel called 0 to 1. The book sold 4 million copies worldwide. Well, Masters has now converted the cover of the book into an NFT, a series of them actually, and he's selling them for $5,800 each to raise money for his campaign. And he promises if he doesn't win, you'll get half your money back. And how about Ozzy Osbourne? Remember when Ozzy Osbourne stuck a bat in his mouth on stage and bit its head off in 1982? Well, he's now launching 9,000 NFTs. And you guessed it, they're each images of bats. Well, NFTs are being released by recording artists on a worldwide basis. BTS, the hugely popular South Korean boy band, one of the music industry's most profitable recording artists.
Let's go!
Tens of millions of fans worldwide. They buy face masks and figurines. Even McDonald's has a campaign involving chicken nuggets in the band. They generate $200 million a year in merchandise and licensing sales, and they've announced plans to launch NFTs. This just illustrates for you how many people are getting in on the game. In fact, total crypto trading volume last year for digital assets, including NFTs, $14 trillion last year. That's a 700% increase over 2020. The trading volume for Bitcoin and Ethereum futures, they alone was $32 trillion, a 300% increase over a year ago. You're seeing some really notable people saying that they're now personally investing and owning digital assets. Apple's CEO Tim Cook. In fact, the new defense bill, $770 billion is what we're spending on defense this fiscal year. That bill now directs the Secretary of Defense to incorporate blockchain into its methods and requires the Defense Department to hire a chief digital recruiting officer. It's not just the Defense Department that's doing this. The Transportation Department is as well. They're using crypto tokens to make it easier to park. Remember we talked about non-fungible tokens? Well, there's that word, token. Well, what's a token? Well, a token is simply a digital representation of a physical thing. You know, you've heard of subway tokens, right? You need a token to ride the subway. You've heard of, a rose being a token of my affection. So a token represents something else. And we all know how difficult it can be to park, especially in urban areas. Well, now the Transportation Department is going to use digital tokens to make it easier. The Defense Department's press release said, quote, blockchain technology could let travelers spend tokens to reserve a parking space or receive tokens if they use a different mode of transport. And yet some people still say this tech is nothing but a fad. If the Defense Department is getting involved in this, the Transportation Department, if luminaries like the CEO of Apple are saying they're personally buying this, I'm not so sure we can continue to call this a fad. What it represents is an opportunity to engage. You can buy, you can sell, you can own, you can invest. And this is an investment opportunity that frankly didn't exist a decade ago. It was something that very few people paid any attention to as recently as 2 years ago. And this is, in my mind, kind of like the internet in 1995. Would have been pretty cool to invest in Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook back in the mid-90s. That's where we are with blockchain and digital asset technology today. It's that early. And that means it's risky. A lot of companies went broke when the dot-com bubble burst in 2000. That is going to be experienced again with a lot of companies that are new, young upstarts going out of business. But the technology, here to stay. And there will be a lot of companies engaging today that are also likely to be here to stay. To ignore this, I think, is a big mistake. Let me give you another illustration of how this is becoming mainstream. Airbnb polled its customers and said, what is it you would like us to do? What new service would you like us to introduce in 2022? What was the number one request? I'll tell you next on The Truth About Your Future. Stay with us.
Want to invest in digital assets but find it all a bit complicated? There's actually a very easy way that you can invest in this new asset class. Simply choose the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, symbol BITW. It's the first and still the biggest crypto index fund. It owns the 10 largest digital assets and rebalances monthly, so you don't have to decide what to buy or when to rebalance. Bitwise does it all for you. At Bitwise, we want digital assets to be available to everyone, and that's why we work closely with individual investors like you, as well as financial advisors and institutions. At Bitwise, crypto is all we do. If you believe digital assets should be part of a diversified portfolio, take a look at the Bitwise Crypto 10 Index Fund, symbol BITW, available everywhere you get your investments. There are major risks to consider, including the loss of your entire investment. Before investing in crypto funds, visit bitwiseinvestments.com to learn about the risks with these investments.
Edelman Financial Engines is a sponsor of this program and podcast. And they also have their own show and podcast that you'll hear right after this show. Their show is called Everyday Wealth and features Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatsky. Soledad is a Peabody Award-winning journalist, and Gene is a best-selling financial writer. They'll explore the financial decisions you face and how those decisions affect your life. They're joined each week by financial planners from Edelman Financial Engines and other industry experts to share the insights and strategies you need for managing your wealth and generational planning to retirement income, tax-efficient investing, and more. So stay tuned right here each weekend for Everyday Wealth. For more information, visit everydaywealth.com/radio. The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman and Edelman Financial Engines are not affiliated.
What do all the greatest innovations have in common? Agents of innovation. Ordinary people who shape the future by putting their money behind the right ideas. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100. So you don't have to be an inventor to help create what's next to come. Be an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks when investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs' risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 Index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly into an index. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in the prospectus at Invesco.com. Invesco Distributors, Inc.
Welcome back to The Truth About Your Future. I'm Rick Edelman. We're talking about a recent Airbnb poll that asked, what new service would you like us to introduce in 2022? The number one request? Let us pay with crypto. The demand is surely going to force Airbnb to accede to this request, and other companies as well. This is the mainstreaming of crypto, supporting the notion as more people buy Bitcoin and other digital assets, the more those coins will rise in value. The only question you have to ask yourself, it's not, is it a fad? Don't ask yourself that question. What you want to ask is, do you want to engage in this at all? Do you want to have this as a part of your portfolio? In fact, 25% of small businesses in 9 countries say they're going to start accepting digital assets as payment this year. That survey was done by Visa. Leading the way, the UAE, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Brazil, followed by Germany, Ireland, and Russia. Lagging, the US and Canada. Soon, though, it'll be everywhere. The question is whether you're going to get involved now or later. You will eventually be involved. To give you an illustration of how common, how popular Bitcoin is and how popular it's perceived, Arkansas a couple of years ago created an incentive. You see, they've got a problem in Arkansas. Too many people are moving out of the state. They don't have enough workers. So Arkansas created a program that if you agree to work in Arkansas, they'll pay you $10,000. Well, they just upped the incentive. Now they'll pay you $10,000 in Bitcoin. We're even seeing governments around the world get in on this. The Reserve Bank of India, that's India's central bank, their version of the Federal Reserve, they've just announced that India is going to offer a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. They're going to take their currency and make it digital. The Bank of Mexico is doing the same thing. They're going to launch their digital currency within the next 2 years. Jamaica's doing it in the next 2 months. There is a concern about cybercrime and money laundering involving crypto, but guess what? The use of crypto in illegal, illicit activities is at a 5-year low. 0.15% of all crypto transactions. The reason that the volume is going down is because, although the amount of transactions is going up, the number of crooks using crypto illegally is not growing. So this is further proof that crypto is legitimate. By the way, the World Bank projects that as much as 2% of dollars are being used for illegal purposes, compared to 0.15% for crypto. So I have a question for you. This is a true-false question. True or false? The SEC will eventually say yes to a Bitcoin ETF. True or false? Well, a lot of people think the answer to that is true, that eventually the SEC will say yes. I've predicted that they'll do that. Here's another true or false. When there's a Bitcoin ETF, a lot of people will buy it, and that will lead to a big increase in Bitcoin's price. Do you think that both of those questions are true, that the SEC will say yes to an ETF, and when they do, the price of Bitcoin will rise? Well, if you believe that there's going to be a Bitcoin ETF and that will cause the price to go up, why aren't you buying Bitcoin today? Are you going to wait until after the ETF comes out and after the price rises? Remember, the time to invest is when the price is low, before the price rises. So if you think the price is going to go up, the time to buy is now. And oh, by the way, Goldman Sachs just issued a report saying that the price of Bitcoin could increase to more than $100,000. It's currently less than $50,000. And 59% of millennials who have $250,000 or more and an advisor, half of them say that they want to put up to 10% of their money into Bitcoin and other digital assets. This is something that you need to be considering. And increasingly, financial planning firms, investment management companies, brokerage firms are helping their clients do this. Morgan Stanley is letting their clients invest in Bitcoin. But you have to be an accredited investor, meaning you've got to have an income of $200,000 or more, $300,000 if you're married, or a net worth of $1 million or more, not counting your home. Morgan Stanley won't let lower income or lower net worth clients invest. They also demand that you have an aggressive risk tolerance and that you have at least $2 million in your account at Morgan Stanley. In my opinion, that's insane. This makes no sense. That's simply a policy that says the only people we're going to allow to invest in something that we think might double in value is if you're already rich. We're going to let the rich get richer, but we're not going to let anybody else in on the game. To me, that is obscene. It is not in a fiduciary relationship with a client where you're serving the client's best interests. In my opinion, this is a representation of a firm focusing more on their legal worries than they are on helping clients create wealth. If they're willing to let rich people buy Bitcoin, why aren't they willing to let every client buy Bitcoin? Doesn't make any sense to me. If your financial advisor is artificially saying to you, you have to have $1 million invested with us or $2 million invested with us or what have you before we'll let you buy Bitcoin, frankly, I'd find another advisor. Think about this. What if you have millions of dollars, but simply not with that firm? Maybe you've got $1 million in your 401k. Maybe you have it in investment real estate. Maybe you have it in other brokerage accounts or IRAs. You simply don't have it with this firm. Why is the firm requiring you to have millions of dollars invested with them before they'll let you put 1% of assets into your diversified portfolio? It makes no sense. There's no legitimate basis for this, in my view. And so you need to look carefully. Your advisor should be offering you the opportunity to include digital assets into your diversified portfolio. And if they're not willing to let you do it, simply go find another advisor who will. This is why I created, in fact, the DAC FP Advisor Directory. It's a list of financial advisors around the country who have attained their certificate in blockchain and digital assets. The Advisor Directory is free. It's available to you at dacfp.com, DACFP.com. Get the advice you need from a fiduciary willing to give you the advice you deserve. I'm Rick Edelman. This is The Truth About Your Future.
The Truth About Your Future is sponsored by Global X ETFs. Listeners to this show tune in every week to hear Rick Edelman and his guests talk about the personal finance topics that matter most. And if you're retired, or soon will be, you are no doubt listening for Rick's thoughts on retirement security and longevity. At Global X ETFs, we understand you may also be interested in opportunities to generate income, with interest rates still near historic lows. Our approach to this challenge looks beyond what you might have considered, using asset classes that include MLPs, REITs, preferreds, and dividend-paying stocks. We have been managing these types of income-oriented strategies for over a decade, with solutions suited to a range of portfolio objectives. Explore our full product lineup, research and insights, and more at globalxetfs.com, or speak with your financial advisor to learn more.
Do you know anyone who's a new investor? You can help make it easier for them to get started. With the new Schwab Starter Kit, new investors can open an account and get $50 to split across the top 5 stocks by market cap in the S&P 500. Those are companies they actually recognize, like Amazon, Apple, and Google. There are also videos, guides, and other helpful tools, plus investment professionals 24/7 to answer their questions. To see the current top 5 stocks and learn more about the Schwab Starter Kit, go to schwab.com/starterkit.
Choice is changing the way Americans save for retirement by making it possible to invest in Bitcoin, crypto, and other alternative assets inside your IRA. That's right. When you open both a deductible and a Roth IRA with your Choice account, you can buy real Bitcoin and or any of 22 other digital assets. In your Choice account, you can also buy stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, gold, real estate, you name it, all in a single retirement account. There's no hidden fees or account minimums, and you get more control over your retirement savings. You can also access Choice via your financial advisor. So if you have a professional managing your money, tell your advisor to get set up with Choice so they can help you access Bitcoin and other alternative assets in your retirement account. Head on over to retirewithchoice.com/Rick. That's retirewithchoice.com/Rick.
You're listening to The Truth About Your Future with Rick Edelman. We talk often about Alzheimer's because we're living longer than ever, and the longer we live, the more likely we're going to get Alzheimer's disease, which means chances are, if Alzheimer's isn't in your future, it's in the future of a loved one, and you may end up being a caregiver. We have also talked about the fact that Biogen's new drug, the first new drug approved by the FDA in about 20 years, is widely criticized, highly controversial. Medicare recently announcing they are not going to cover the drug except for trials. And so people are left wondering, is there no hope? Is there no help for either preventing Alzheimer's or reversing it if I have it? Well, I'm very happy to bring back onto the program someone we've had on before, but who is very topical on the subject, which will give you a lot of optimism, and that is Dr. Dean Ornish. Dean, thanks for joining me on the program today.
Great to be here, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Dean is the president and founder of the Preventive Medicine Research Institute and the creator of the Ornish Reversal Program. He is also clinical professor of medicine at the University of California, both in San Francisco and San Diego, and he proved that you can reverse heart disease without drugs or surgery, simply by changing your lifestyle. And Medicare pays for his program, which is extraordinarily uncommon because it's not an interventionist. I mean, it's not surgery, it's not drugs. Dean is also the author of 7 books, all national bestsellers, and his 3 TED Talks have been viewed by 6 million people. The Ornish diet has been rated number 1 for heart health by a panel of experts every year for the past 11 years. Dean, it's very exciting to have you back with us on the program. Let's begin by talking about the Ornish Reversal Program, now available throughout the country. What is it?
For the last 40 some odd years, I've directed research showing that simple lifestyle changes, a whole foods plant-based diet that's low in fat and sugar, moderate exercise, say walking half an hour a day, various meditation and other stress management techniques, and social support, spending time with your friends and family and loved ones, or to reduce it to its essence, to eat well, move more, stress less, and love more, can not only help prevent, but even reverse the progression of a wide variety of chronic diseases. And we were the first to prove that heart disease could be reversed. And it's why, as you indicated, a panel of experts from U.S. News and World Report recently rated again for 2022 that our diet is number 1 for heart health. Medicare began covering our program 11 years ago, and just in November, because of the data that we've been able to accumulate, they're now covering it when it's offered virtually. And so if you go to ornish.com, it'll tell you information on that. And the book that came out in paperback, Undo It, puts forth this new unifying theory that why is it that we found that these same lifestyle changes first could reverse heart disease, and in the later studies could reverse type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Many people have been put on these medications to control their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their cholesterol level. We're told, you have to take these forever. And now we find that under their doctor's supervision, many people can reduce and in some cases get off of these medications they were told they'd have to take forever. And I think we're at a place with Alzheimer's very reminiscent of where we were with heart disease 40 years ago. In other words, the same, what's good for your heart is good for your brain, the same biological effects, mechanisms that affect all these different conditions. My theory is that, again, ounce of prevention, pound of cure, that more intensive changes may help to stop or even reverse its progression. Now, we don't know yet. We're encouraged by our early findings, but it's too early to say for sure. But if, and it's still a big if at this point, we show that, it could give millions of people new hope and new choices in the area that people are more concerned about than any, because, when you lose your memories, you lose everything.
And so rather than waiting for a drug or engaging in an invasive procedure such as surgery, we're saying that it really begins with healthcare at home. As you mentioned, it is diet, it's exercise, it's stress, it's relationships. Is it really as simple as all that? Is that all that it takes for us to have an incredible impact on the quality of our health?
Well, drugs and surgery properly used can be life-saving. We've all benefited from them, but they don't really treat the underlying cause of why we get sick, which are to a much larger degree than people had once appreciated, the lifestyle choices that we make each day. And I think our unique contribution has been to use these very high-tech, expensive, state-of-the-art scientific measures to prove how powerful these very simple and low-tech and low-cost interventions can be, and how quickly you can get improvements in ways not only that you feel better, but in many cases you are better in ways we can actually measure. And I think knowing that, again, the aducanumab drug that got approved, that part of the reason why there was such controversy around it is only slows the rate of getting worse a little bit. A third of people get bleeding into their brain and brain swelling, have to stop taking it. But in lifestyle, the only side effects are good ones. So, if you have an issue with dementia, you're concerned about it, this is a good time to begin making those changes. In our study, we're actually providing them 21 meals a week for them and their caregiver for 40 weeks because we really want to make it easy for them to stay on this program. And so if there are any people out there who have early Alzheimer's, it runs in my family. My mom died of it and all of her siblings. I have one of the ApoE4 genes for it. But if you have it or you know someone who does, who might be interested in the study, again, it's all done at no cost to you. Go to ornish.com and let us know and we'll get back to you.
And so you're in the midst of an extensive study. That study interfered with due to COVID because you were having patients coming to you for the treatment, for the diet and the exercise and the stress regimen. COVID interrupted that and you had to go virtual. But you're demonstrating that you're able to deliver your study in a virtual setting across the country.
Yeah, if anything good came out of COVID, that's probably it. Because I thought the intervention was too high touch to really done by Zoom, but I was wrong. I'm happy I was wrong. So, beginning almost 2 years ago in March of 2020, we were meeting with the patients 3 times a week in our office, but we had to stop doing that. They're one of the most vulnerable populations for COVID. So we had to either stop doing the study or do it by Zoom. So we did it by Zoom. And to my great surprise, it's worked just as well. And so now we're collaborating with the heads of neurology at Harvard and at Mass General, at the University of California, San Diego, at Renowned Health Center, and where they're going to recruit and test the patients locally, but we do the intervention from here via Zoom.
So there's a problem, however, that I want all of our listeners to be aware of. And the problem is that COVID did slow down the study. It did create a bit of an interference like it did for everybody in the world. And you had to rejigger the study going to a Zoom environment instead of, physical personal interactions. And costs have been expanded as well. And so we need to make sure you have the funding you need to complete your study. So talk about how much money you're trying to raise and how people can help in getting you the funding you need to complete your study.
Well, I so appreciate the question. I mean, the cost went up simply because it took us longer to do it because of COVID, as it is for everyone, as you've indicated. We need about $2 million more to finish the study. My approach to fundraising is that, what gets me out of bed every day is I love doing this work. I mean, how often in life do we get a chance to potentially make a difference in the lives of millions of people we'll never see in the area that's most important to them when nothing else works, So if you or someone has the resources and would find it meaningful to support our work, we're getting very encouraging preliminary findings. I think the chances of a success are reasonably good. And if that's something that would excite you, again, go to ornish.com, let us know, and we'd be really grateful. And if you just want to know more information about what we're doing to make that decision, let me know and I'll get back to you personally.
And you're probably wondering, okay, let's assume that this all proves as successful in its study results as your heart disease research has proven. We need to get the word out. And so I'm happy to tell you that there is a documentary underway. There is Louis Sahoyas, who is an Academy Award-winning filmmaker, who is following Dr. Ornish's research. And he's filming the activities, he's interviewing the patients who are involved in these studies, and he's in the process of making what I am convinced is going to be another award-winning documentary. This documentary itself is a multi-million-dollar effort, and Gene and I, along with Edelman Financial Engines, are providing the funding for that film. So we are very excited about the research that Dr. Ornish is engaged in, and our commitment is to help make sure that this information gets distributed to everybody around the world, but the film can't get finished until the studies are completed, and that's why it's so important that Dr. Ornish receive receive the funding that he needs to complete his studies. So if you are interested at all in helping to support his work in this groundbreaking, revolutionary Alzheimer's research, then I encourage you to go to ornish.com and support the efforts of Dr. Dean Ornish in this effort. Dean, thanks so much.
Let me just say before we go how grateful we are to you and Jean for doing that. To me, awareness is always the first step in healing. Louis' earlier films have been seen by literally billions of people. And because of you, we can now not only show it in theaters and Netflix and Amazon and iTunes and so on, but then we can give it away for free to Alzheimer's organizations, to medical schools and nursing schools and so on. And so because of you, we can, you can't really capture in a journal article all the things that we're doing, but in this film, you actually see the people going through it, the struggles they have, how they overcome them, in many cases, their improvements and so on. None of that would have been possible without you both. And so we are very grateful to you for that.
Well, it's our pleasure and our honor to support the work that you're doing, Dean. And again, if you're interested in supporting his efforts, just visit ornish.com. That's Dr. Dean Ornish here on the program. Dean, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rick.
I'm Rick Edelman. You're listening to The Truth About Your Future.
What do all the greatest innovations have in common? Agents of innovation. Ordinary people who shape the future by putting their money behind the right ideas. Invesco QQQ is a fund that allows you access to innovators of the NASDAQ 100. So you don't have to be an inventor to help create what's next to come. Be an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ. Learn more at Invesco.com/QQQ. There are risks when investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs risks are similar to those of stocks. Investments in the tech sector are subject to greater risk and more volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 Index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies on the NASDAQ. You can't invest directly into an index. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in the prospectus at Invesco.com. Invesco Distributors, Inc.
Want to invest in digital assets but find it all a bit complicated? There's actually a very easy way that you can invest in this new asset class. Simply choose the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund, symbol BITW. It's the first and still the biggest crypto index fund. It owns the 10 largest digital assets and rebalances monthly, so you don't have to decide what to buy or when to rebalance. Bitwise does it all for you. At Bitwise, we want digital assets to be available to everyone, and that's why we work closely with individual investors like you, as well as financial advisors and institutions. At Bitwise, crypto is all we do. If you believe digital assets should be part of a diversified portfolio, take a look at the Bitwise Crypto 10 Index Fund, symbol BITW, available everywhere you get your investments. There are major risks to consider, including the loss of your entire investment. Before investing in crypto funds, visit bitwiseinvestments.com to learn about the risks with these investments.
The Truth About Your Future is sponsored by Global X ETFs. Listeners to this show tune in every week to hear Rick Edelman and his guests talk about the personal finance topics that matter most. And if you're retired, or soon will be, you are no doubt listening for Rick's thoughts on retirement security and longevity. At Global X ETFs, we understand you may also be interested in opportunities to generate income, with interest rates still near historic lows. Our approach to this challenge looks beyond what you might have considered, using asset classes that include MLPs, REITs, preferreds, and dividend-paying stocks. We have been managing these types of income-oriented strategies for over a decade, with solutions suited to a range of portfolio objectives. Explore our full product lineup, research and insights, and more at globalxetfs.com, or speak with your financial advisor to learn more.
Welcome back to The Truth About Your Future. I'm Rick Edelman. Have you heard of the world of micropayments? There are millions of people around the world, about 1 billion actually, who only earn $1 or $2 a day. They earn such small amounts of money that they can't afford to buy anything that is expensive. And this is a challenge for them, not only to get food and medicine, but to start a business and to engage in commerce. This is where Bitcoin can really be helpful because Bitcoin facilitates micropayments. You see, with dollars, you can only go down to pennies, which is 1/100th of a dollar. But with Bitcoin, you can go down to a Satoshi, which is 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. And this allows payments that are tiny, tiny, tiny fractions of a penny. That allows people with very little money to actually engage in commerce in a way that has never been done before. This is why Bitcoin is largely projected to help the people on the planet who are at the lowest economic strata of all, the bottom billion, rise up with economic power that they've never had before. Elimination of poverty on a global scale. Micropayments. Want to learn more about blockchain? Read my new book, The Truth About Crypto. Available from your favorite bookseller. Order it now. Every week I like to bring you the latest and greatest in the field of exponential technologies. Have you ever heard of Geely? I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. My bad. They're the largest private automaker in China. Last year they sold 1.3 million cars. And they've got an electric vehicle brand called Zeekr. They launched it last March, a new self-driving car that's going to debut in 2024. You're going to see new brands of automobiles from new automobile manufacturers from countries never before selling vehicles here in the United States. Further illustrations of how the future is different from our past. Hey, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my brand new monthly newsletter, The Truth About Your Future. Every month, I'll give you the information you need about the 5 personal finance topics that matter most: longevity, retirement security, exponential technologies, blockchain, and digital assets, along with health and wellness. Technology is changing everything, and that means we have to rethink everything we thought we knew about college and career, home ownership and mortgages, retirement and leisure, and of course, how you invest your money. In my new monthly newsletter, I show you the investments that I personally own, so you can build your own portfolio or talk with your financial advisor to secure your financial future. Subscribe to my newsletter, The Truth About Your Future. Just $39 if you subscribe now. Savings of 50%. Go to thetruthayf.com. Thetruthayf.com. Time now for everybody's favorite segment of the program, a visit by my wife, Jean Edelman. Jean, a student of the healing arts, Reiki, traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathy, acupuncture, and of course, macrobiotic and plant-based cooking. Here's Jean.
Hello, great to be with you. This week I'd like to talk about routine. We all love our routine. My horses love their routine. Hoshi has her routine. She stands by her food bowl same time every day for her breakfast and dinner. For those that routinely have a packed daily calendar, change can create a lot of discomfort when there's unscheduled time. So how will you feel when you go through a major change in your life? Have you started planning and thinking about when you enter your next chapter and change careers or wish to retire? After 36 years, Rick and I left Edelman Financial Engines, and I found myself a bit uncomfortable with having to create a new routine. So the first thing I did was I anchored on what I knew. And so my morning routine will never change. That's the way I start my day. And my evening routine won't change because that's the way I love to end my day. It was the stuff in the middle that was very wobbly. Found myself taking a lot of deep breaths. And if we can get our minds to understand that open time is an opportunity to create a new routine, that open time can be our greatest creative time. So I think it is helpful to ask the question, what do we want to accomplish today? And then create a list. How fun. We get to choose who we want to connect with and when. I found breaking my day down into blocks was really helpful. So I had a block before breakfast, and then a block after breakfast, and then a block after lunch. Then I created another list of commitments that I did have: business, committees, charity work, classes. And then I created another list of my interests and hobbies. Did I have interests and hobbies that I'd like to go back to? Are there new subjects that I'd like to explore? So having this fluidity and this flexibility in our day is wonderful when we can get there, because it's still uncomfortable. But the baby steps will help us be okay. It takes time to get comfortable with it. And now that I'm in more control of my routine, I was able to establish more self-care in my day. So here's an action item. I encourage you over the next few weeks to try to leave an open hour. If that's too difficult, how about we give ourselves an hour for lunch, and after we eat, we can fill that time with an errand or something that we wanted to get accomplished, but weren't able to make the time to do so. Or we can start with an easy half hour of open time, maybe 3 days a week. The point is to begin to shift over to more of what we want to do versus what we must do. So my word of the week is routine. R is for radiant. Stress from over anything, over work, over being booked, over anything, can really cause wear and tear on our bodies and our health. When we give ourselves permission to not be overbooked, we're reducing our stress and we're giving ourselves an opportunity to rest and restore. And we will glow. The O is for original. Each one of us is an original piece of art. We get to create what the world sees. So when we begin something new, we get to shine even more in our originality. U is for unconditional. Unconditional love for ourselves and others. I don't think we love ourselves enough. I think we're pretty hard on ourselves. And now that we've got some transition and change in our lives, it's time to really love ourselves. It's really great to remember that we're one human species and we are on this planet, and unconditional love is so important. T is for talent. This is our time to find our hidden talents. Pull out the musical instruments from when we were kids. Find that paintbrush. Throw around some paint. Our talents are just waiting to emerge. I is for imagination. When's the last time we actually sat down or made time to daydream and just let our thoughts wander? Now that we have an opportunity to put some open, unscheduled time in our day, we can do that. N is for notice. After we make our small changes, it's time to notice how we feel. Have we moved our shoulders down, or are they still up by our ears? Are we breathing more deeply? Are we relaxed during our meals and not feeling so rushed? These are all signs that we're moving in the right direction. E is for emotions. A lot of the time we stay so busy, we don't want to face the emotions that keep popping up. With less scheduled time, we have more opportunity to have our thoughts be a bit freer. And these emotions will come up, but we need to remember our tools. To journal, talk with a professional, go for a long walk or a run, or just let these thoughts or emotions just roll around in our mind until they just dissipate. Because what they're doing is they're coming up because they want to be noticed. But when we don't give them the spark that they want, they'll say, oh my gosh, and then they'll be gone. And then we can move on. No one has life figured out. We're meant to write our own chapters. We're meant to create and recreate ourselves over and over again. Think of life as a chalkboard. We can erase what we want. We can erase what we don't need. We can bring on the colors and what brings us joy. Or one day we can just wipe it all clean and start again tomorrow. It's all good. It's all fun. Enjoy your new routine. Have a great week.
That was Jean Edelman here on The Truth About Your Future. And if you want to get more of Jean's Words of the Week, just go to thetruthayf.com.
Want to start investing? One thing is certain, trusted is always better than trendy. With the new Schwab Starter Kit, new investors can open an account and get $50 to split across the top 5 stocks by market cap in the S&P 500. Those are companies they actually recognize, like Amazon, Apple, and Google. There are also videos, guides, and other helpful tools. Plus, investment professionals 24/7 to answer your questions. To see the current top 5 stocks and learn more about the Schwab Starter Kit, go to schwab.com/starterkit.
Edelman Financial Engines is a sponsor of this program and podcast. But they also host their own show and podcast that you'll hear right after this show. Their show is called Everyday Wealth, and features Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatsky. The show explores how our financial decisions shape our everyday lives. Soledad is an award-winning journalist and broadcaster, and Gene is a personal finance expert and best-selling author. They're joined each week by financial planners from Edelman Financial Engines and other industry experts to share the insights and strategies you need to manage your wealth. They cover topics like generational planning, retirement income, tax-efficient investing, and more. So stay tuned right here, today and each weekend for Everyday Wealth. For more information, visit everydaywealth.com/radio. That's everydaywealth.com/radio. The truth about your future with Rick Edelman and Edelman Financial Engines are not affiliated.
I'm Rick Edelman. Thanks so much for joining me on the program this weekend. Remember, I recorded a special urgent webinar, and you can watch the replay. It'll help you figure out what you ought to consider doing for your own portfolio during this period of market volatility. That's the truth. AYF.com. I'll see you next week.
As a reward, you'll have no radio for the rest of the week. Go to your room.
The truth about your future with Rick Edelman has been brought to you by Bitwise, the world's largest crypto index fund manager. As crypto grows, Bitwise believes everyone should have a simple and familiar way to access it. Bitwise makes crypto clear. BitwiseInvestments.com. And by Global X ETFs. For more than a decade, Global X ETFs has been dedicated to providing investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions. Learn more at globalxetfs.com. And by Invesco QQQ, a fund that allows you to access the innovators of the NASDAQ 100. Invesco.com/QQQ. Stay tuned for Everyday Wealth with Soledad O'Brien and Gene Chatsky from Edelman Financial Engines. Everydaywealth.com/radio. EFE and the truth about your future with Rick Edelman are unaffiliated entities.
Get the truth about your future every weekend with Rick Edelman. It's thetruthayf.com.